Your chest, you can beat the world, you can beat the war. You can talk to God, go banging on his door. You can throw your hands up, you can move a mountain.
All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Generosity Show. I'm your host, Jennifer Evans, empowering you to reach optimal wellness in spirit, soul, and body. This is episode number 6, and I am so excited to have an amazing man on the show. He's also a friend, Mr. Frank Shankwitz. Hi, Frank. How are you?
Hi, and thank you for the invite.
I'm so glad that you accepted it. Before we get started, I would love to just read your bio to everybody. Most people know that, you're famous for being the creator and one of the founders of the Make-A-Wish Foundation. But I want to give a little bit more background about who you are before we dive into a great conversation today and get to know you. Does that sound good?
All right.
All right. So Frank Shankwitz is the best known as the creator and founder of the Make-A-Wish Foundation, an extraordinary charity that grants wishes to children with life-threatening illnesses. From humble beginnings, the Make-A-Wish Foundation is now a global organization that grants a child's wish somewhere in the world on an average of every 28 minutes. Wow.
It is amazing, isn't it?
That is. I can't believe it. I'm sure that still shocks you to hear that too, right?
It does. It does.
So you are an Air Force veteran and have a long distinguished career in law enforcement. Frank began as an Arizona Highway Patrol motorcycle officer and retired as a homicide detective with the Arizona Department of Public Safety with 42 years of public service. Wow, thank you. That's pretty amazing.
You're welcome.
You've received numerous awards from, George Bush. You've joined 6 U.S. presidents as well as Nobel Prize winners. On Ellis Island for a medal honor. Wow, you have to tell us about that. There's so much. I don't know if I can read this whole thing, but I'll probably ask you more about it. Another thing is you have a movie coming out this year called The Wish Man about your life story. So that is really exciting, and I look forward to talking about it. So welcome, Frank.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Now, let me correct you on something here. You started out with a little kind of rap music. We need a little country music for this.
Oh, you know what? You know what? One of the things I'm thinking about doing is just asking the guests before the show what song they like. So I'll do that from moving forward. I should have thought about that.
Yeah, a little Willie Nelson or something.
I know you're a cowboy. So welcome. I want to thank everyone for being on the show. Thank you to PSTV, the Positivity Network, Facebook Live, everyone who's watching. Hello, Pastor Joe. Lindsay, we want people to be engaging today and ask Frank questions. He's really here to kind of just open up and be himself. He's a great guy. So I actually met you, Frank, at the Habitude Warrior Conference through speaker Eric Swanson in Dallas a couple years ago.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, and I saw you on stage, and it was just amazing. I was touched by your story. And when I found out you were from Arizona, I said, I'm from Arizona too. And you told me you lived in Prescott. And then we found out that your kind of office in Prescott is the bar that my cousin runs called the Palace. So it was such a small world to get that connection. We were kind of friends right away. So.
Yeah, and not only that, it led to you being selected for one of the extras in the Wishman movie.
I know, that was amazing. Thank you so much. My dad and I have this joke where we say, we're movie stars now because we were extras in the Make-A-Wish Man movie, but I don't really know if we made the movie. I haven't heard, so I'm thinking, I don't know.
Well, I will show you a private screening of the movie, and you can see me.
Okay, all right. Well, looking forward to that. So, all right, we want to get to know you. I know you grew up actually in Arizona like me, so I'm drinking out of the Route 66 coffee mug in honor of you being from Seligman, Arizona. Do you want to tell us a little bit about your upbringing?
Well, it's kind of a strange story, but the backstory leads to the founding of the Make-A-Wish Foundation. Yeah. So I was born in Chicago. At 2 years old, my mother divorced my father and disappeared. We had no idea where she went. From age 2 to 5 was a very happy childhood. I can remember all the events with the family, the cousins, and so on. At 5 years old in kindergarten, a lady came up and grabbed me, said, "I'm my mother," and literally kidnapped me. I had no idea who this lady was.
Wow.
And she said, "We're going to Arizona." At 5 years old, I didn't know where Arizona was. Plus, I'm trying to get away from her. A couple of smacks on the head calms you down a little bit at 5 years old. She took a strange route to Arizona. We went up to Michigan, up in the northern peninsula, and there started a whole different lifestyle for me of survival. We lived in a tent during the summer months. We lived in an old flop house during the cold winter months in Michigan. And we were there for 5 years. And during this time, my father was trying to find us. At age 10, just about age 10, my father did locate us, went to the sheriff, said there's a warrant for her for kidnapping. During the period while they're waiting for the sheriff to come out, she grabbed me, threw some stuff in the car. We started this journey to Arizona that she had wanted to do. It took about 6 weeks to get to Arizona because she kept running out of money. She'd be work in a restaurant and so on, just enough to get some gas, get some bread, peanut butter and jelly. That was our whole life thing. And you mentioned Seligman, Arizona, just outside of Seligman, Arizona. And this is now I'm 10 years old. She completely ran out of money, gas, everything. Rancher stopped, asked what's going on. She explained her situation. Typical cowboy type rancher says, "You're coming to our house. We'll take care of you for a while."
Oh.
For the next 6 months, we literally slept on the kitchen floor. That was our bedroom on some bedrolls that he furnished for us. But during this time, I was able to get a job, 10 years old, as a dishwasher in Seligman. And I met a gentleman named Juan Delgadillo, who became a father figure, a mentor for me. And Juan taught me so much. He provided me, obviously, employment in that. But he always said, "Frank, when you can, give back." Now, this is in the 50s. And I said, "Juan, what do you mean give back? We don't have a thing. People are feeding us. We're sleeping on a floor." He said, "You don't understand. You don't have to have money to give back." He said, "You can give your time." And I said, "Juan, I'm 10 years old. I don't understand what he's saying." He said, "Look at Mrs. Sanchez, the widow Sanchez. Her yard is full of weeds. Her needs painting there. And she's always bringing you beans and tortillas. You're old enough to go over and clean that yard. You can give back. Look at Mr. Ortega. They got an old caboose off the Santa Fe line they're trying to fix up. They're always helping you and feeding you. You can go help fix up that thing. You're old enough to do that. That's how you can give back." And I always remembered that lesson. That's been my whole life of learning to give back. When I started 7th grade in Seligman, my mother said, "I can't afford you anymore, and you're on your own," and left.
Wow.
And I went to Juan Delgadillo and said, "Juan, I don't know what I'm going to do. How do I live in that?" He said, and I always remember this lesson, "Always turn the negative to the positive." I said, "What do you mean, Juan? My mother just left." He said, and we had lived in an old rotten travel trailer at the time. Didn't even have showers or anything. Had to use a bathroom down the street. But he said, "I'm going to arrange for you to live with Widow Sanchez. And she's going to charge you $20 a week to room and board." And he says, "You make $26 a week. For the first time ever, you're going to have $6 of your own." That's one of the positives.
Oh, yeah.
The positive is you're going to have your own bedroom that I've never had before. You're going to have indoor plumbing, indoor shower. Mrs. Sanchez is the best cook in town. There was no argument on that. And plus, Mrs. Sanchez got the first television in Seligman, Arizona. So look at all of those positives. And I always remembered that lesson, plus the lesson of giving back. So that was my childhood. I did rejoin my mother later in high school when I moved to Prescott. Following living in Prescott after graduation, I joined the Air Force. This is Vietnam era. I was not a combat veteran. Following the Air Force, I went to work at Motorola. And Motorola was looking for, this is so strange, Jennifer, they were looking for the Vietnam era veterans.
Oh.
Because this is the early or the middle 60s. This is the day of sex, drugs, and rock and roll. The college graduates and so on, they couldn't pass background tests. They couldn't get security clearances because of arrests for everything. And Motorola was looking for the vets because this was the Atlas missile program that was being developed and in process. So Motorola hired us. They sent us to college. We used our GI Bill. And it was just, again, a great opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
But go ahead.
No. I don't want to cut you off.
It's kind of a long narrative,
yeah,
which leads up to the Make-A-Wish Foundation.
Yeah.
And I ended up being a statistical engineer at Motorola. Now, my high school math teachers couldn't believe this. But this is the days before computer. It was all slide rule, blackboards all over. What we're doing was determining the failure rate of components for these missiles.
Mm-hmm.
And a great job, great money. But I was so bored. I'm kind of an adrenaline junkie. I'm the suit and tie. I don't like living in Phoenix. Anybody from Phoenix listening, I apologize, but I'm a country boy. And some of my friends from high school, from Prescott High School, had joined the Arizona Highway Patrol and said, Frank, why don't you join with your experience in military? And I was air police in the military. And with your background in engineering, you'd be perfect fit for the Highway Patrol. Mm-hmm. I know, guys, I can't afford the job loss. Mm-hmm. I mean, monetary loss. And I just kept thinking, I'm going to give it a try. Just for a whim, I'm going to put it in an application. And that particular time, this is 1972, think of this, there were 10,000 applications mm-hmm. for a class of 50. The majority of those failed, again, because of the drug. They couldn't pass drug tests. They couldn't pass background tests. I was one of the 50 selected. I was 10,000 and went to the academy, and that started that whole 42-year career with the Arizona State Police.
Wow. So let me ask you, so you never participated in any of that sex, drugs, and rock and roll?
Well, let's just say the drugs and the rock and roll.
Okay.
I was stationed in England, so. But no, and people don't believe that. I've never in my life used any type of illicit drugs, ever. And I don't even like using prescription medications. Sometimes you have to, and people say, I don't believe that. Well, I never wanted to lose control of my thought process, my actions. So I've never got involved in that. No interest whatsoever.
Well, that's great. That's great. Okay, so great. So you got, into public service, and tell us about that and how, the journey to make a wish with that.
Well, it's so interesting. I was assigned first as a car officer down in Yuma, and I was going to more college classes down there. And one of the coaches said, we heard that you played football, all sorts of sports in Prescott. We have a program called Special Olympics, which I'd never heard about. And he said, we'd like you to be a coach in Special Olympics. We'd like you to work with these kids in baseball. One of the events was a baseball throw. And I'd love that. And I had so much fun working with these kids. And I started thinking, Juan, I think I'm starting to give back. I'd never thought about this with just my time. And in fact, one of the kids threw the ball so far, it went over the fence and hit a car windshield and broke the windshield. So I just love working with those kids. Then in 1973, I was approached by our commanders and said, we're starting a new motorcycle program, and we would like you to see if you could go to motor school and be one of the motor officers on this brand new program in Arizona. And I said, this sounds like fun. The only problem was I'd have to move back to Phoenix.
Okay.
And they said, well, okay, you're going to be in Phoenix, but we're going to have a 10-man tactical unit that's going to work the whole state of Arizona. So you're only going to live in Phoenix. That's our headquarters, but you're going to be all over the state. Now, this was a great assignment. In fact, we trained with California Highway Patrol, and our uniforms, our motorcycles, everything was identical, except obviously ours says Arizona. Yeah. But as we're going through town, all of it, now there's a TV show called Chips.
Yeah.
And you're laughing. So you're showing your age, Jennifer.
Well, I've heard of it, but I can say I haven't watched it. But I know it's a pop movie, right?
Yeah, and for people who don't know, Chips was a big see, and it was on for several years. It was the adventures of two California Highway Patrol motorcycle officers, Ponch and John, and just the kids from the age group about 6 and 7 up to mid-teens loved this show. And that's why it was such a hit. And as we're going through these small towns with 2-man teams, just like Ponch and John, all of a sudden the kids are yelling at us, hey, Ponch, hey, John. And again, everything was identical except ours said, obviously, Arizona. So I
Yeah.
had this idea. I went to the commanders. I said, listen, we have some downtime in these little towns. Is it okay if we go to the local grade schools and talk about bicycle safety to these kids? And they, well, yeah, do that if you've got free time. That'd be great PR. Well, it was great PR. The kids loved it. They didn't like to talk about bicycle safety. They just wanted to get on the motorcycles. And
Yeah.
again, it was great PR. We had so much fun doing it. And again, I'm starting to think, hey, Juan, I think I'm giving back a little bit again. In 1978, I was involved in a high-speed chase in a little town called Parker, Arizona, which is on the California-Arizona border. It's separated by Colorado River. 80 miles an hour in a 25 zone with a drunk driver. Another drunk driver pulled right in front of me. I hit him broadside at 80. I was told the crash was spectacular.
Was your partner, did your
Yeah.
partner see it happen?
Well, the last thing I remember was going in the air. I was pronounced dead at the scene.
Wow.
My partner tried to revive me. He couldn't do it. He called in 963A, which in our code means officer killed in the line of duty. An off-duty emergency room nurse from California stopped at the scene, told my partner, please let me try to revive him. He said, we've tried. He's dead. There's no pulse for over 2 minutes. We have nothing. She said, I don't care. And she tried. Well, you and I are talking. So obviously she brought me back to life.
Wow. That's
Now,
pretty
being a police officer, you got to have a little humor. I mean, you can't go to work every day and not have some humor.
Mhm.
And when I went to counseling later, and the counselors asking me, you know, what did you do? Did you experience the tunnel? And I never thought about that. In a tunnel, for a lot of people, when they die, the light goes out. You look like in the tunnel, and all of a sudden it closes. You're dead. As you're brought back to life, that light starts opening up, like you're coming to the end of the tunnel, and your senses start coming back.
Mhm.
And I recall the senses. The first thing was the sense of hearing. I'm hearing sirens. I'm hearing my partner and that brought him back, brought him back. I brought back what? And all of a sudden, the sense of smell, some very sweet, sweet smell, which turned out to be perfume.
Oh.
The sense of touch, something is tickling my face, which I learned later was blonde hair.
Oh.
Again, a sense of touch. Something is on my lips. Very enjoyable. The sense of sight. I open my eyes, and here's this beautiful blonde with a lip lock on me. And I thought, if this is heaven, this is fine. This is great. And in fact, she did. Now, I learned later that, again, my partner had tried and brought me back with mouth to mouth. And I'm so glad I didn't wake up with him, because he had a big bushy mustache, ugly guy full of bugs. I probably would have just went back down the tunnel or something.
Yes, he didn't do the trick, right?
Yeah. But it took over almost 6 months to recover from the accident. I had skull fracture, extensive traumatic brain injuries, broken bones, missing skin, and that. And then at the end of that period, when I was getting ready to go back to work, again, having to talk to the counselor, the psychologist, to make sure mentally I'm okay. Physically, I was getting ready to be released. But he said, God spared you for a reason, and it's up to you to find that reason. Now, we're all, any police officer I've ever worked with, we all believe in a higher being, no matter what type of religion it might be. We always go to work every day. We say a little prayer. Please allow me to go home at night. You get home at night, you say a little prayer. Thank you for allowing me to go home. And I couldn't figure what's this reason going to be. It was 1980, and it was kind of a special day just in my life. As a motorcycle officer, I had a beat that, and you know the area. I went from Phoenix clear up to Payson.
Okay.
Which is over 100 miles for people listening. You start out in the Phoenix desert area, you end up high in the mountains. And this was in April, there's still snow up there. And our midnight shift guy and the car officer was sick that night. I get the order, you need to get the whole route in the morning because we don't know if we've had anybody go over the edge, cars, it hasn't been reported. You start out down in Phoenix, you're just in your uniform, you get up higher, all of a sudden you're in leathers. And you're just cruising. This is instead of working, you're just cruising. And I get a phone call, or not a phone call, but a radio message on the radio. You need to find a telephone. And now, folks listening, there's no cell phones in this period.
Can you imagine?
Yeah, this is again 1980. And you need to find a nearest payphone. We have code 3 traffic, meaning emergency traffic, does not involve your family. And it was 40 miles to get to the closest payphone. I call in and they say, Frank, we've just learned there's a 7-year-old boy named Chris. Chris has leukemia. Chris only has a couple weeks to live. Chris's heroes are Ponch and John from the television show Chips. And our department, the Highway Patrol Department, the commanders are putting together a special day for Chris. We're going to pick him up at our hospital with permission of his doctor and his mother in our state police helicopter to pick him up in the hospital in Scottsdale, fly him to our headquarters building in Phoenix. And when they land, we would want you to be standing by with your motorcycle so Chris could meet you and meet his Chips type hero.
Yeah.
And I got to wondering why did they pick me out of the 40 motorcycle officers we had all over? And they said later, because you're working with the kids all the time.
Yeah.
Well, okay, I had no idea what to expect. Now, kind of fun for a police officer is they said you're advised code 2 traffic, meaning I can break every traffic law there is to try and get down to Phoenix over 60 miles away in time to meet the helicopter. No complaints. Everybody writes in and say it's authorized.
That's awesome.
But they timed it where when I pulled in the landing zone at the state police headquarters, the helicopter was just coming in as I was driving in. And I parked the motorcycle, the helicopter lands. Now, I didn't know what to expect. I had never met this little boy, and I figured our paramedics are going to have him on a stretcher, a wheelchair. Mm-hmm. Helicopter door opens. Little red pair of sneakers jumps out, runs over. Hi, I'm Chris. Can I get on your motorcycle? Well, yeah, Chris. What's your name? Now, nobody can say Shankwitz. So I said, Officer Frank. And that's how I became known to him. But this little boy was ecstatic. He's all over that motorcycle, Jennifer. He's having so much fun. Now, he had watched Chip so much. And again, our motorcycles were identical. Can I turn on the siren? It's this button. These are the 4-way flashers. This is the radio. This is this and that.
Oh, how cute.
What's in your saddlebag is the same that Ponch has in his saddlebag. I mean, this kid is just having a ball. But I look at his mother and she's crying. Mm-hmm. And I couldn't figure out, why is she crying? Her son is having so much fun. Then it dawned on me, Jennifer, that she has her 7-year-old back. He's now, instead of IVs and hospital beds, he's running around just having a ball. Mm-hmm. Chris went on that day to become the first and only honorary Highway Patrol officer in the history of the Highway Patrol. Our commander swore him in, gave him his own badge, the smoky hat like the car officers wear, a tour of the headquarters, especially the armory. What little boy going through the armory, right? And towards the end of the day, his doctor who was with him told his mother, I don't understand. His vitals are so good. Let him go home tonight. Let him go to his comfort zone, and which they did. And we felt pretty good about what we'd done with Chris. But the guy said, new officer needs a uniform. And in those days, the uniforms were custom made. We went to the tailor shop just about closing. We said, we've got a little boy, 7 years old. He's about this wide, this high. Can you make a uniform for Chris? 2 ladies spent all night making a uniform for Chris.
Wow.
The next day, our commanders authorized me and several car officers to go to his neighborhood to present the uniform. He lived in Scottsdale. You can imagine about 8 in the morning, red lights and siren, motorcycle squad cars going up to his house. Chris comes running out. We show him his uniform. This little boy is just giggling and happy, runs in the house like a quick change artist, comes back out just strutting. Wow. And he had, what was so funny, he even had on aviator glasses like the motorcycle officers wear. But he came over to me and he kept rubbing the wings on my uniform. And he says, I really wish I could be a motorcycle officer. Now, that's the first time I heard that word wish.
Yeah.
And he said, how do you become a motorcycle officer? So I just started teasing him, explaining the training we were doing and everything. And I said, Chris, if only you had a motorcycle, we'd put traffic cones in your driveway, give you the test right now.
Yeah.
This is a step ahead of me. He runs in the house and comes riding out on a little battery-operated motorcycle that his mother had got for him in place of a wheelchair.
Oh.
And again, he's got on the helmet that we had given him. He's got glasses, but what really cracked me up is he had on what we call on the ranch the high top black rubber mucking boots that his mother had bought for him, the pants legs, so it looks like motorcycle boots. He says, "I'm ready." Okay. Goes through the cones. He comes back. "Did I pass?" "Yes, you did, Chris." "Am I a motorcycle officer now?" "Yes, you are, Chris." He's just grinning, happy, but then he stops. "When do I get my wings?" Well, the wings were custom made by a jeweler out in the Apache Junction area, in the Phoenix area, and it had to take a couple days to get those made. I said, "Chris, I promise you I'll get your wings." And again, he got to stay home that night. The doctor who came over said, "I don't understand. His vitals are so good. Let him stay home." 2 days later, I pick up the wings from the jeweler. Just as I pick them up, I get a radio message, "Call department immediately." I call. "Chris is in the hospital in a coma, probably not going to survive the day. You're authorized to go to the hospital immediately." Go to the hospital. I walk in the room. Chris's uniform is hanging right by his bed. He's in the coma. His mother is with him. Just as I pin the wings on his uniform, he comes out of the coma.
Wow.
I know. It's like a scene out of a movie, which it is a scene out of a movie. He looks at me and he says, "Very weak. Am I a motorcycle officer now?" "Yes, you are, Chris. It's official. In fact, I'm your partner now."
Oh.
He asks for the uniform. He's rubbing the wings. He's showing it to his mother, giving her a hug. A couple hours later, he passes away.
Oh, wow.
Maybe those wings helped carry him to heaven.
Mm.
We had.
I like that. That's nice.
Yeah, our commanders approached me a couple days later and said, "We have lost a fellow officer," because he's sworn in as an honorary highway patrol officer. And they said, "We've learned that he's going to be buried in a little town called Kewanee, Illinois. And we would like you and another motorcycle officer to go back and give him a full police funeral," which we did. Now that journey to Illinois, the TV stations in Phoenix area started picking up this whole story, and it went to broadcasts all over the nation. When we landed in Chicago, we were surrounded by TV.
Oh, how cool.
Came in, "What do you guys need? Let us give you transportation," and that. When we got to Illinois, in fact, on the way driving, my stepbrother lived in Chicago, and I borrowed a vehicle from him to go to this town of Kewanee. As we're driving, myself, my partner, in full formal Arizona Highway Patrol motorcycle gear, the dress gear and everything. And as we're driving, we get stopped. This is the day of the 55-mile-an-hour zone. Illinois State Police stopped us. And I said, "Hello, officer, I wasn't speeding. What's the problem?" He says, "I want to know why 2 guys in a Jeep are in Arizona Highway Patrol uniforms." And I'm thinking, was this a scene like Smokey and the Bandit? We're in hot pursuit of something. So we just explained what we're doing. He said, "You're the guys. I saw it on TV." He said, "You know where you're going?" Now, again, this is before GPS. I said, "We got maps, I'm pretty sure." He said, "We're going to lead you the rest of the way to make sure you get to this little town of Kewanee on time," which I'm so glad, because it's way out into nothing in rural Illinois. But he went to the end of his jurisdiction. We were picked up by another Illinois State Police car that led us to Kewanee. When we get there, we are met by several Illinois State Police, city police, county police, all wanting to join in the funeral procession to help bury this little honorary officer. Chris was buried in uniform. His grave marker reads, "Chris Gracious, Arizona Trooper."
Oh.
And flying home, I just started thinking, here's a little boy who had a wish and we made it happen. Why can't we do that for other children? And that's when the idea of the Make-A-Wish Foundation was born, 35,000 feet over Kansas or something like that.
Wow.
So that was the idea right then.
That's absolutely amazing. Woo! That's so. We have a lot of people watching. Someone, my friend Pastor Joe, said he's in tears, and it is such a beautiful story. So yeah, just thank you for sharing. So I would love to know, when you got back to Arizona, the story impacted you, and then did you work with a couple other people to start the nonprofit, or how did that work?
Excuse me. Yeah. How do you start a nonprofit? I have no idea. Again, there's no internet during this time. a lot of library research.
How people function back in the day.
Exactly. I always like to tell people, anybody remember library cards? And a lot of the younger said, huh, what is that? But, and also when Chris's mother came back from Illinois, she was the first one I approached. And I said, I've got this idea.
Oh, that's.
Found out in Arizona, you have to have 5 people to start a nonprofit by Arizona Corporation Commission. So first it was me, then she approved. My friend Scott Stahl, who went back to the fellow motor officer, he approved, but I still needed 2 more. Now I approached everybody involved with this. I approached a custom agent that first introduced the Highway Patrol, Chris to the Highway Patrol, about this idea. I approached all the officers that were involved in this. This is the idea. Everybody said it's not going to work. Nobody's ever heard of anything like this. It's not going to work. It's going to take too much time, too much money. And I remembered what Juan told me. Turn that negative into the positive, and just figuring out ways. And it took about 3 months to find the other 2 people to start the foundation. Then once we did that, we had to start filing for our 501c3. I had a friend that's an attorney, and that's not an oxymoron. I tell people attorneys can be friends.
Yeah.
But, to help us fill out our charter, we wrote our charter. It took us 6 months, an amazing short time, really. And in November of 1980, we received our 501c3 and became official.
Wow.
Now, I was the first president and CEO, and the press picked this up because nobody had ever heard of anything like this. And in fact, we did our first official wish in March of 1981, but we went nationwide immediately, and donations were coming in. The most difficult part, Jennifer, was I'm a police officer. I have a full-time job and trying to run the foundation. And the director of Arizona Highway Patrol, Ralph Milstead at the time, and his son Frank Milstead, of all things, is the current director now 30-some years later. But he called me to his office. I thought, oh, I'm in trouble. And he said, Frank, I know what you're doing. I appreciate what you're doing. I support what you're doing, but you're going to give me 8 hours of work every day. Of course, boss. He said, now I got a feeling it's going to take you 15 to 16, 18 hours to do that. But you're going to give me 8 honest hours, and you're going to keep your figures up, meaning arrests, et cetera, et cetera. 10-4, boss, I'm going to do that. I so appreciate that man that gave me that opportunity, because I'd start the day shift 5 in the morning. By 10 o'clock, I'm in making phone calls, doing everything for vehicles. And he provided office for us to do all this.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah, just so great support of the Arizona Highway Patrol Department of Public Safety. But after a while, then I started working part-time jobs to help get more finances coming in. And people congratulate me, say, because I never took a salary. Oh, wow, that's so noble of you. Well, I had a job, Jennifer. Why would I want to get a salary from a nonprofit? I have a job. I wanted everything to go to the foundation.
That's very admirable.
Yeah, and it just exploded. 1981, like I said, our first official wish. Do we have a few minutes on this?
Oh, yeah, we have plenty of time.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. And the first official wish was a son boy, again, terminal leukemia. Frank, nicknamed Bopsy Salazar, lived in a poor little community, Guadalupe at the time. The house still had dirt floors, etc. And we were introduced to him by one of the people at St. Joseph's Hospital that told us about this, knew about our new organization. I went out and I was the wish granter for Bopsy. And a wish granter goes out and interviews the child to find out what the child's wish might be, not the parent's wish, but the child's wish. And we're talking to Bopsy, and I put him in, I borrowed a Highway Patrol car and put him in the front seat because they were embarrassed for me to go in the house. I don't know why. I lived in worse conditions than that, but anyhow. And I'm talking to Bopsy, and he was very stoic because I found out with the Catholic Church in his particular little town, he was coming into his manhood and he couldn't show a lot of expression. And I said, now, if you had would like to see somebody, go somewhere, have something, be somebody, what would it be? And he's thinking about it a little bit. He said, I want to ride in a hot air balloon. I thought, well, that's easy. I know friends up in Prescott have a hot air balloon. He said, no. He said, I want to be a fireman. I said, wait a minute, you're in a Highway Patrol car and you want to be a fireman? Now, he laughed at that one. But I thought, well, that's easy because my girlfriend at the time, which is now my wife, her brother was a Phoenix fireman. We can put that together easy. And he said, no, I want to go to Disneyland. And I thought, oops, we had never thought about, for some reason, a travel wish. But okay, we'll put that together. And I said, well, okay, let me talk to the people. I went back to the board and I said, and the Make-A-Wish Foundation, a child gets one wish. And we wrote that charter, and it's still in effect today. I'm so proud of that it's still 30 some years later, we're following the same guidelines. But I went to the board and I said, we're going to grant all 3 wishes. We're going to break the charter immediately on this first wish because we're going to get so much press out of this. And luckily, they all agreed. Now, the hot air balloon, that was so easy. Bopsy had such a great time. The Phoenix Fire thing, Phoenix Fire came together. They sent him down. They made the full turnout suit, his size, down the fire pole, in the fire engine, everything else. Disney was a different story. Our secretary kept calling Disney, said, with the Make-A-Wish Foundation, what we would like is free admission into the park. We have a boy that's in a wheelchair. If he, in fact, could get in front of the lines. They had never heard of us, and they just kept denying us. And I found out later, they get these requests all the time, and half of them are not legitimate. She said, I don't know what to do. They won't answer me. They won't talk to me. And I said, well, let me call. Give me the name. I called. I got the secretary of the director of public relations. Who is this? And I said, this is Officer Frank Shankwitz, Arizona Highway Patrol. And she said, what is this about? I said, I need to talk to the director of public relations. Why? I said, I have a warrant for one of your people. Now, I did not have a warrant for one of their people. But guess who I got to talk to? Immediately. And I said, now, I just lied to you. I did not have a warrant. This is my name. This is my badge number. This is my supervisor's name. This is his phone number. All you have to do, call right now, and I will be terminated immediately for lying. Will you please listen to my story? Which he did. Now, 30 some years later, Disney, one of the biggest sponsors, with literally over millions and millions of dollars. So sometimes you got to lie, but I always say qualify that lie right away.
Yeah,
but because of Bopsy, that opened the whole door for the Disney thing, and because Disney now is getting involved, other people started looking, major corporations, how can we get involved? And boom, it exploded.
That's amazing. Wow. Stephanie's on. Hello to us, your manager assistant. Hey, Stephanie.
Hi, Stephanie. Stephanie, Kinney is my manager currently. She lives in Iowa. And with a little backstory real quick, I was a speaking engagement in Iowa this last February. And Stephanie beforehand located the gravesite of Chris, because I had never, that was my bucket list item, to go back there to Kewanee, Illinois and visit that. She had found that. We went in a major snowstorm that day, kicking all sorts of snow. I don't know how she survived that in little boots and so on, but she found that gravesite and I got to visit that. It's 30 some years later.
That's so sweet. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, I would love to hear a little bit about how you met your wife, Kitty. You guys are such a cute couple. She's so kind, and maybe how you met, and give us a little bit of relationship advice for how you keep such a.
Me give relationship advice?
Give us a marriage tip or something.
Marry someone that believes you and that will put up with you. That's the biggest thing. But, when I had this accident in this little town of Parker, there's no real hospital. There's a little clinic.
Yeah.
No hospital rooms or anything. And the doctor said that he needs somebody back to the motel room. We're going to put him, and we'll send nurses and that there to keep him awake for the next 20 some hours because he's going in and out of shock. And Kitty was our traveling secretary for our motorcycle tax squad.
Oh.
When we got the whole squad together, 10 guys making so many arrests, she was doing all the paperwork and that. And obviously she was selected. She's going to get to stay there. And we had worked together for all these years, but never really paid any attention to each other. And during that time, I got it thinking this is kind of a special lady, and hopefully she started thinking the same thing. And it comes out in the movie where we were called in a commander's office one day and said, department employees are not supposed to date. And we said, well, we're not dating. And in fact, we're engaged and getting married. And so it was so funny. We got permission from a commander to continue dating until we got married a couple months later. But I always like to tell people, Kitty was part of the founders of Make-A-Wish. Even though her name is not on the charter, she was the secretary, and they could only put 5 names on this charter for the Corporation Commission. She left her name off, adding the other people. But she was one of the big people who helped put all this together, supported me. And when we did our first official wish that I mentioned about BOPSI, I told the board, someday we're going to be national and international. We'll be going to be granting wishes all over the world. I could just see this. And they all laughed at me except Kitty. And I tell people, I got my wish about 3 years later when she said I do. Oh, come on, ladies. That's an aw moment. But true story.
That's really beautiful. Well, great. Well, tell us about, about the movie and how it was. I know you played an integral role in the movie, and, when it's coming out and some details about it.
Yeah, there was a whole fun thing. I was a speaking engagement in San Diego several years ago called Secret Knock, which is put on by Greg Reed.
Yeah.
And I have been speaking all over literally the world for Make-A-Wish as a keynote speaker at meet and greets at their galas and so on. And Greg heard me and he said, now, how much do you charge for speaking? And I said, well, I don't charge, Greg. This is for my foundation. He said, no, for your other events. And I said, I don't do that. And I was getting ready to retire. 42 years, that was enough. And he said, why don't you become a professional speaker? And he ended up being my mentor on that. Again, and he's so much younger. He always reminds me of that. But a mentor, and all of a sudden became a very successful speaking career. Then he and another gentleman I met, a friend of his named Theo Davies, approached me one day and said, we want to do a movie about your life. And I said, no, you don't. And they said, yes, we do. And I thought you were talking about a documentary. And he said, no, we want to do a feature motion picture. Now, this is almost 6 years ago now. And I said, well, okay, one of the things I'd asked for, because I had worked with the TV and movie industry and other some things. And I said, number one, I want script approval. And I want to see what's going on with the screenplay. Long story short, it took us 2.5 years to write the screenplay.
Wow.
Because just different things. Then they brought me on as a location scout, as technical advisor, and as a consulting producer. And the biggest thing we lobbied for was I wanted the film to be made in Arizona, especially in this Prescott, Yavapai County, northern Arizona. For people who know it, we're up in the mountains in northern Arizona. And again, giving back. So many people had helped me in high school in Prescott. We even filmed in location in Seligman that we could infuse some money back in the economy here to give back. And they finally agreed to that. We got all locations settled. We actually started filming in, I'm almost losing track of time, September of 2017. And we were on almost a 30-day shoot. But it was so fun working with the cast, with the crew. What I really appreciated was the director before scenes. Frank, what do you think? Is the script right here? Are the settings right? Everything. Just so much fun working with them. But the biggest thing on this movie impact me was I worked every day with the script supervisor. And we were usually the first ones on a set. If anybody's been on a movie set, it's the most boring thing. You hear about 18-hour days, it's 18-hour days. It is just long, long days. And I would report to the script supervisor, a young girl named Kennedy, and we would go over the script for the day, everything. We'd look at the locations, we'd look at the settings in there to make sure everything was right for the either 50s or 60s or 70 period. And she knew what the movie was about. She knew my background. And we're in the third day, and I walk in the set, and I'm like, good morning, Kennedy. And she looks at me, and she starts crying and comes up and gives me a hug. Kennedy, what's wrong? What did I do? She said, I'm a wish child.
Oh, wow.
Now, I still get tears even thinking about that. I've met so many wish children, but this one was special. And she had a wish when she was from Artesia, New Mexico. She wanted to go to film school to learn how to be a script supervisor. Who even thinks about that? Not a movie star, not this and that. And she ended up finally going to a school in Las Vegas. Was director that was teaching there, asked her to come to Hollywood as an interim script supervisor, an intern. And she did that. A couple of days in a shoot, the regular one didn't show up. Script supervisor, director says, "You're hired." She's fired. Now, all these years later, she's all over the world. We're friends on Facebook. We stay in touch all the time. But
Oh, cool.
it's such a special thing that wish really came true for her.
Mhm. Oh, that's beautiful. I know that probably everywhere you go, you meet someone that says that they're a wish kid or they know someone. I know someone on the show said that. Someone on this show even said that they know someone. Christopher did his Make-A-Wish trip to Disney in Florida. So does that happen for you a lot?
All the time, and that's what I love about my new speaking career.
Yeah.
Is afterwards, the meet and greets are usually an hour and a half to 2 hours. I'm not boasting on that, but so many people come up and say, I'm the friend, aunt, uncle, grandmother, sister, father, mother of a wish child. But the more important to me is they come up and say, I'm a wish child.
Wow.
And I just love that. And everywhere I go to, every speaking event, it happens. And I'm on the road 2 or 3 times a month. But especially a wish child, when they come up, I say, now, what was your wish? And I'll look at their eyes. Now, they could be in their 30s now, but I'll watch and I can see them relive that whole moment. It's just so special. Now, the hardest thing to ask, a lot of people come up and say, I'm, again, the mother, father of a wish child. The hardest thing for me to ask is, did they survive? And I'm always so obviously happy to say yes, they did. When they said, no, they didn't. But it was such a special moment for us of what the Make-A-Wish Foundation did for our family. And a wish is like, let's say a travel wish, for example, is for the whole family. If there's mother, brother, sister, whatever, the whole family goes. We want them to just forget about these illnesses and have fun as a family.
So it seems that, some of the kids that, are terminally ill, because of the hope and the excitement and the joy, it seems to maybe turn their situation around. I mean, is that?
That is amazing. That is amazing. Yeah. We call it the power of a wish. We will have what they call a rush wish. The doctors will come to the Make-A-Wish and the parents and say, if we're going to do this, we need to do it now, because 2 months from now, the child is not going to be alive. The child goes on a wish, comes back, and goes into remission.
Wow.
The doctors can't explain it. I was part of a study several years ago with the doctors. They just could not explain it. All these medicines, everything else never worked. Now all of a sudden, and I know what's going on. The child said, wait a minute, I'm having too much fun on this. I got too much to live for. The heck with this illness. Mm-hmm. But lately you're seeing on TV children with brain cancer that they go into all of a sudden total remission. So something's going on. Something's going on.
There is.
It's a higher being maybe taking care of all this.
Well, thank you so much. I mean, I love this, that this all goes back to, someone that took you into his home, right? That opened up his home to you.
Yeah.
And, then someone inspired you to say, you know what, Frank, you can give back no matter what, right? You don't need money to give back. You can, clean something for somebody, give somebody a ride somewhere, go visit someone. That's really inspirational that you just took, that advice and you continued to build off of that every day. And it turned into this, global effort that's helped. How many people now have received a wish?
Well, it's over 450,000 wishes have been granted, all because of one little boy. And we're 63 chapters in the United States, 36 international chapters on 5 continents. And like you said earlier, and this figure still boggles my mind, every 28 minutes on an average somewhere in the world, a wish is granted. Again, because of one little boy.
Wow. Well, and I would love to ask you, what is the most generous thing that someone's done for you lately? I know you do a lot of giving, but I'm sure.
and I never expect anything, but it was just locally in a convenience store. In fact, it was a Circle K. I walked in the other day getting some stuff and got a cup of coffee. It's snowing like heck up here in Prescott. And I turned around and there's a teenager in there. And he just said, good afternoon, sir, good afternoon. And he said, let me buy you that cup of coffee. Oh, no, that's, teenagers still often get these bad raps. There's so many good ones out there versus all the bad ones you hear about.
Yeah.
And I just, no, that's great. And his mother was there. And I said, great upbringing.
That's really nice. So when do you think we'll be able to see your movie out? What are we waiting on?
We have to wait for a distributor to pick this up. and get it in the theaters. We just last week, I think it was, Greg Reed texted me and said all of a sudden we have 3 distributors wanting this movie.
Ooh, yeah.
He was right. Yeah, because we've been waiting. We've shown several of screenings, private screenings to distributors. So we're hoping for a mid 2019 release.
Wow, great. And you guys are actually already won an award for the movie, right?
Amazing. This was the Arts for Peace award ceremony in Beverly Hills.
Yeah.
Big gala type thing. And we won, and we're not even in the theaters yet. We won Best Inspirational Film of 2018. And then Andrew Steele, who plays me in the won Best Newcoming Actor, and little boy Chris Day won Best Young Actor.
Oh, that's great.
And we got all sorts of splash over Hollywood on that. So hopefully that helped with the distributors looking a little more closely at it.
That's beautiful. Well, that's amazing. Thank you, Frank. Is there anything else that you'd like to tell the audience today?
Well, just my tagline is everyone can be a hero. And that's the theme of the movie. And you can be a hero just by giving back. And again, it doesn't have to be money, time, just helping somebody out. Like you'll see in the movie, Juan that I mentioned, one of the lines in it is Frank, just help somebody out. If they need help, help them. I've got a book available, Wishman. It's on Amazon. Okay. And you can find out about my travels coming up, speaking events, and also a movie on my website, which is Wishman1, the number 1, wishman1.com.
All right. Well, that's amazing, Frank. Thank you so much for your time. I know you're a busy man, and you know, just thank you for sharing your story.
Well, I appreciate the invite. We had so much fun.
Yeah. Well, I was actually talking to you this summer, and I was telling you that I had the desire to start the show, and you encouraged me to do it and said, "I'll be on your show." Do you remember that? And I said, "All right."
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So you kind of.
We were going to do the first guest. We had some technical difficulties and scheduling problems. So I'm so glad we finally got on there.
Yeah, I just appreciate, you know, you are so kind and so humble. That's one of the things that I really admire about you. You're just a down-to-earth cowboy. So.
I have a wife that makes sure I stay that way too.
Exactly.
Yeah, I feel so important, but now I got to go out and shovel snow. So.
Well, please tell Kitty I said hello, and you know, happy 2019. I hope you guys have a beautiful year.
All right, Jennifer, and thank you.
All right, thank you guys. Thank you everyone for watching. We'll catch you next week, and get out and get generous. Bye.
Bye.